SpongeBob and the LoudHouse are my two favorite Nicktoons. Well, SpongeBob is the cartoon that I always loved watching as a child. Well, until the creator of SpongeBob passed away, and the cartoon has becoming pretty mid recently. Well, especially just the terrible spin-off stuff they're doing these days. The Patrick Star Show is trash. The Sandy Cheeks movie is pretty bad. Camp Coral is not interesting. I personally did not like the Plankton movie, and I just explained why in my previous videos. So for that, I just stopped watching the SpongeBob cartoon and stick with watching the LoudHouse on cable. Okay, when I first watched that show back in 2016, well, I thought that was pretty good, but then my appreciation for this cartoon has grown more and more of how much the movies, well, except for the live action LoudHouse, impresses me in so many levels. But we're not really here to talk about that. Today, I'm going to be comparing the LoudHouse and SpongeBob at movie terms. Okay, well, I did that before, but this time, it's a total of war of 3v3 tag team comparison. Well, I am going to bring my own LoudHouse movie that is basically a crossover into the conversation, and I'm also going to review the recent SpongeBob film during this time. So that makes 4-on-4 tag team. So, which popular Nickelodeon shows had better movies overall? Well, it is time to find out one last time. The SpongeBob movie Trilogy versus the LoudHouse movies Trilogy. Let the battle begin. The story of the first SpongeBob is about SpongeBob proving that he is more than what he is, but by the end, he learned to accept himself. Well, Sponge Out of Water is simply about a pirate trying to be successful by stealing the Krabby Patty formula. Well, Sponge on the Run was just the same plot from the episode we already seen before. And now, as for the recent SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants, it's about SpongeBob facing his fears. The story of the first LoudHouse movie, it's about Lincoln trying to prove that he can be as special as his siblings. The LoudHouse movie No Time to Spy is about Lincoln's grandmother being hunted by the past of being a spy agent, and as a result, Lincoln being all full of himself put his family in danger. Well, Naughty or Nice has by far the worst story out of the two LoudHouse films, and we will talk about that in a minute. And the plot for the LoudHouse and the Foster Squad was pretty different from the official LoudHouse films. I lean more into a mature kind of storytelling for a kids movie, and there's tons of breaking the fourth wall moment. Okay, when it comes to story and pacing, the LoudHouse easily had the upper hand, hands down. SpongeBob is just known as being a cartoon that doesn't have an actual story. And the heck, they even took a SpongeBob story plot from the episode and turned it into an hour movie. Well, although the only storytelling that I see in SpongeBob was the 2004 film, but that wasn't good enough. Well, the LoudHouse in the Foster Squad has by far the best story out of these cartoon movies. The Loud family are so down on their luck, but then get recruited by the Butterfly just to team up with the Foster Squad. And the characters' interaction were great and hilarious, and that prove how uncontinuity SpongeBob was. Well, Search for SquarePants had some pretty decent stuff to get into the movie, like the lore of the Flying Dutchman and exploring the underworld. And I thought that kind of story was just basic, and the pacing was too fast. The story of the LoudHouse movie, Naughty or Nice, well, it just happens that Lincoln Loud was put on the naughty list in a mid-understanding reason. Okay, well, I'm just going to call that bullcrap there. Well, I know Lincoln does a lot of questionable stuff in this show, but there's no way that he is on the naughty list while the rest of his family are nice. Like, I can tell you for a fact that Lincoln's sisters are as naughty as he is. The Loud sisters does some bad stuff as well in the series, and it was even worse than what Lincoln have done. Like, take that from Luann April Fool's prank as a example. It's like the writers have not seen the LoudHouse cartoon and just think that Lincoln being on the naughty list was acceptable. Well, if I was the director of Naughty or Nice, then I would make Luann the main character for this movie. Luann is a monster when it comes to April Fools, and she tells pretty mean jokes too. Like, Naughty or Nice could have been a Luann movie, because she is less of an angel compared to all of her family members. I have seen this movie twice now, and I still complain that Luann could have been the lead character for Naughty or Nice. Oh, and by the way, they just went for a cliche Christmas ending where everyone lost their memory.
Of course, Lincoln is the only one who remembers everything that happened at the North Pole because the rest of the family had their memories erased. Yep, they really went for that kind of ending.
Alright, so, which trilogy has the overall better story? Well, I will still say the LoudHouse movies, without a doubt, because it has the family feel-good moment, while SpongeBob lacked story. But which movie has the better story between Naughty or Nice and Search for SquarePants? Well, like I said, I rewatched this movie before preparing for this video, and I think it is only fair if I do the same for Search for SquarePants. So yeah, I am about to rewatch this movie to see which movie actually had a better story, so I'll be right back. Well, I just finished watching the movie, and, well, it was slightly better than watching it the first time. Well, only slightly though. When I first watched that movie with my friend, we were pretty mixed about this movie and have no interest of rewatching it.
Woodward he didn't listen though. Like,
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, bro.
Yeah, he should have listened to Mr. Krabs.
It was generic.
Yeah, what do you think of it? You liked it? You loved it?
I did.
Me too. Oh, I did it. Why you don't love it?
It's too simple.
Is it a little too fast pacing though, Sponge on the Run?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, as you can tell by me and my friend reaction, well, we thought it was an okay movie, and I give it a 6 out of 10, while he give it a 7. And something that bothers me in the story of this SpongeBob movie is the lore of Mr. Krabs meeting the Flying Dutchman, which it is not true.
I enjoyed Zootopia 2 more than Search for SquarePants and Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah.
I really did agree with him, because Zootopia 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was a far better movie to watch, so my opinion has not changed when I rewatch it. But again, it slightly got better for me at the second time watching it, because you can actually feel the cinematic with the story, unlike Naughty or Nice that felt like a Lincoln Loud torture episode. Well, regards what I said about SpongeBob having plot issues, the movie with the superior story is actually Search for Squarepants, but the trilogy with the far superior story and narrative pacing, it's the LoudHouse movies. Alright, just a quick commercial break. If you're new to my channel and you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell. That way you can keep track on new videos I'm posting. Alright, now let's get to the character segment. Well, like I said before, SpongeBob character arc is proving that he can do anything. In this movie, SpongeBob is a kid, which that's true, because SpongeBob is born in 1986, and the movie took place in 2004, and that makes him an 18-year-old. Okay, with timeline math aside, everyone been treating SpongeBob like he is so small, like they overestimated him because he is a kid. Well, he's basically a young adult teen because he is 18, but you know what I mean. Well, through his whole journey, SpongeBob learns that, not only he's proving he can do anything despite being a kid, he learns to accept himself for who he is. And like I said, Lincoln's arc is trying to be as special as his 10 sisters, and that kind of development was actually more emotional and relatable in a way, especially for those who had siblings, like me, and by the end, he chose to give up being the Duke of Lock Loud and just accept himself as the boy who is always stuck in his sister's shadows. But his sisters told him at the end that he always been special in his own way. Well, although Sponge Out of Water is more of a plankton movie, because no SpongeBob characters in this movie doesn't have a story arc development except for Plankton. Like, Plankton just had a redemption arc of learning how to work as a team, and he even helped stop Burger Beard. Well, although I did not like when Plankton ended up doing the same thing at the end of the movie, I thought that completely wasted his redemption in the movie. Like, seriously, right after the climax, Plankton just gave the secret formula back to Mr. Krabs like he is over his habit, and him doing the exact same thing at the end of the movie, I just don't like that at all. But hey, at least he learns about teamwork, I guess. Well, as for No Time to Spy, what Lincoln learns from his grandmother is that the life of being a spy agent has their consequences, and he later on realizes that she is right, and he has to risk his life for his family, and it is a pretty wholesome development too. Well, for Sponge on the Run, well, I don't know what his development is supposed to be in that movie. His only goal is to get Gary back. Wait, no, actually, he did have a second character development where he learns to have courage, to stand up for himself, which it is pretty decent enough. Well, for naughty or nice, well, again, that could have been a Luann movie with the context of this movie, but Lincoln's character growth was still there as he learned some valuable lessons. Like Lincoln Loud, as a 12-year-old, had his ups and downs, and that is pretty understandable and quite relatable, because even I'm not perfect, but still, this movie would make more sense if they focus on Luann Loud other than just Lincoln. So, what do I think of SpongeBob development for Search for SquarePants? Well, I thought he is well defined. Well, SpongeBob now holds the big guy reputation, and this big guy is scared of roller coasters. Well, on that note, I thought that was relatable, because me personally, I had a fear of roller coasters, and I did mention that in my previous comparison video. And by the end of the movie, SpongeBob overcome his fears, and I thought that was well done. Because of that, I started to have more courage to go on heights-related rides. Well, almost, because that is just only a one-time thing. But regardless, this is by far the most relatable SpongeBob stuff I have seen. Well, Lincoln's character development in the LoudHouse in the Foster Squad, Lincoln's dream is to be a part of the Double Spy, but unfortunately, he gets rejected. And it's not just him, his whole entire family gets rejected, because how the LoudHouse is these days in real life. Well, after 6 years later, Lincoln and his sisters max their personality, but after being recruited by the soldier and being chosen to save the multiverse, they go back to their old self again, and they ended up teaming up with the Foster Squad. Well, later during the movie, Lincoln find out the truth. He is adopted. In my world of the LoudHouse universe, it makes sense because I always thought that Lincoln's birth story in the one LoudHouse episode doesn't make sense. So now that he learns that he is not related to his family, he's still stuck with them through and through because the bond between the Loud siblings are unbreakable, and the Foster Squad are pretty much the same to each other. Well, not only they save the multiverse at the end, they have proven that they can save the day, and they accept themselves as B-listers and just ignore the opinion people had. I'm looking at you, LoudHouse haters. Okay, Lincoln Loud easily had the best character arc, even though it's supposed to be a crossover movie and less of a LoudHouse movie. And plus, it doesn't feel like we're watching a Nickelodeon movie in the LoudHouse and the Foster Squad. Okay, so which movie has the better main characters between Naughty or Nice and Search for SquarePants? Well, if Naughty or Nice was a Luann movie, then I would have give this round to Naughty or Nice. But unfortunately, this round goes to Search for SquarePants. But the trilogy with the superior main character overall is the LoudHouse movies, in my opinion.
What? Grace Coolidge was his honey. Dude was
Well, there's not much characters in the 2004 SpongeBob film. Well, I mean, there is, but they didn't have much screen time like they should. The movie center around SpongeBob and Patrick adventure, and that's pretty much it. Well, Squidward was going to do something useful in this movie, but he ends up getting mind-controlled by Plankton, and that totally lessens the screen time that he had in this movie, and I really don't like that. We have the mermaid named Mindy, and she is played by Scarlett Johansson, and I thought she is a pretty good character. Well, as for the LoudHouse movie, well, the Loud sisters don't have much screen time either. This movie just focused on Lincoln way too much, into the point that I felt a little annoyed. Okay, I know he is the main character in all, but the Loud sisters are considered main characters as well. If you give them like a subplot story of their own, then that would be nice. Alright, then we have the Mindy figure, which is Angus, and he was the best character in the movie for me. And then we have this dragon, Leela. Okay, Sponge out of water. Well, the characters had way more screen time this time around, and I did enjoy myself as a kid of so much more they did in this film. The team up between SpongeBob and Plankton was so much fun to watch, and it was better executed than SpongeBob and Plankton team up in the Plankton movie, in my opinion. And I thought the superheroes parody in that movie was great. I am a comic book fan myself, and seeing this scene really holds up in a comedic and awesome way. And the action is entertaining too. Well, like I said before, the Loud sisters had more screen time than they did in the first movie. Well, these characters actually risked their life to protect each other and protect Myrtle. Lincoln even attempted to sacrifice himself, and that really shows that he cares. Well, this isn't the first time Lincoln tries to sacrifice himself, but I will address that at the end of the video. Well, the thing is, the Loud family are not just fighting to save the world out of selfishness. They're fighting with Myrtle, overcoming her past. Okay, as for SpongeBob Sponge on the run, well, the character's screen time is limited enough, but they just kind of copied and pasted the 2004 film all over again by making it SpongeBob and Patrick's story. It may work once, but it would not work the second time. Well, although I liked how, well, when SpongeBob is about to get sacrificed, well, his friends tells the audience the story of how SpongeBob impacted their life, and they show a flashback scene during this. Well, although some of the parts from the flashback scene doesn't make sense, because SpongeBob and Sandy first meet as adults, and have them meet as kids, that really confuses me. And I even made up a theory that they just got memory lost. Well, I guess the new creators of SpongeBob has not seen the older seasons, I guess. But with all seriousness, the emotional beats with the characters and the whole entire thing SpongeBob has done to inspire them was well executed. When I first watched that scene, I was tearing up hard. Sad movies never made me cry before, but SpongeBob Sponge on the Run, this is kind of the first movie that did make me cry a little. Okay, the LoudHouse movie, Naughty or Nice, well, Lincoln's character development was good, but like I said, they could have made Luann the main character of this movie, but overall, all of the characters are entertaining in this movie, but they're also pretty forgettable. Despite all of the screen time everyone has gotten, I don't even remember what was their purpose in that movie. Well, despite Lucy being the funniest character in this movie, they just made her fall in love with colors despite being spooky, and I thought that was hilarious. Oh, and I don't know why they just revealed Lucy's eyes like that. Well, on paper, I am happy that they did that, but it just kind of felt forced. And I just got jump scared from that when I first watched it. Okay, in fact, there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cameo in this movie, with Rita trying to, complete the collection stuff. Okay, at first, I thought it's going to be, a Rita Loud subplot, but actually, there's isn't. Rita just end up quickly finding the last Ninja Turtles nutcracker for her collection so quickly, and the subplot just ended right there afterwards. What a waste. Well, there's an elf character named Duncan, and I yiked him. He reminded me of Angus from the first LoudHouse movie, except he has some disagreements with Lincoln during the movie. Well, although he was a good character for me, but he is not a great and memorable character. He has character growth and all, but it felt like we haven't went through his arc enough. Alright, so, what about the characters from the 2025 SpongeBob movie? Well, I am disappointed to say, but most of the characters are barely in the movie. Well, Plankton only have one scene and one dialogue, and yet, they just have the audacity to put Mr. Warren's name in the credits, like he was in the movie. Yeah, none of these characters are barely in the movie. The main cast for this movie was SpongeBob Patrick, the Flying Dutchman, Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and they even throw Gary into the story for no reason. Well, like I said, SpongeBob had a great character arc in this movie, so we can pass on that. But the rest of the characters, to me, was somewhat subpar. Squidward Tentacles is my all-time favorite character of the SpongeBob franchise for how grumpy and bad luck magnet and relatable he was. He always made me laugh. But in this SpongeBob movie, Squidward was just asshole. He didn't even listen to Mr. Krabs in the whole entire mission to get SpongeBob, and this is the first time that I didn't laugh at my favorite character, and that doesn't really happen to me before, and I am surprised that it did happen to me. Well, I thought Mr. Krabs' story arc was okay. Okay, I know Mr. Krabs was in the military. He did train at the Navy, but I am pretty sure he never met the Flying Dutchman in his life. But anyway, Mr. Krabs was surprisingly not selfish. Well, his usual personality is just him caring about money. But in Sponge on the Run and Search for SquarePants, well, Mr. Krabs was just more concerned of his employee than just money, and I like that. Mr. Krabs is like a father figure to SpongeBob. So Mr. Krabs, being the healthy guardian, and went all this way just to protect SpongeBob from the Flying Dutchman, really did warm my heart. Well, although the heart-to-heart conversation moment where SpongeBob is about to conquer his fears was mediocre to me. All Mr. Krabs said to him is that, oh, all tough guys are not all that tough after all. They can be vulnerable, scared, just like humans. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but that was the most generic advice that I ever heard. Even when Mr. Krabs cry, it's just emotional core manipulation. So this movie is trying to manipulate you to cry, well, just like the Dirt movie did, but it has a excuse for that. Movies making you cry in happy tears is a good thing and all, but it is a good thing when it's necessary. And plus, this movie been lacking emotional stuff way before SpongeBob and Krabs had this conversation. Like the heart-to-heart moment what this movie attempted between Patrick and whatever her name is, it was over before it even begins because of comedy purpose. I mean, what a waste. Well, my characters in the LoudHouse in the Foster Squad are perfect through and through, and even the original characters that I just created. The Foster Squad and the Loud siblings are trying to fit in and belong to something, and like I said, they both proved themselves that they are more than just B-listers. Well, the Nickelodeon characters, including SpongeBob, made a cameo in this movie, and even they have better story arc here than the actual SpongeBob films. And all of these characters has grown together after saving the multiverse, and it is so satisfying. So yeah, unlike SpongeBob, the LoudHouse had more stuff that is continuity. Lori and Bobby just recently broke up in the recent season, and they continued the story, or at least rebuilt the story from here. And even the LoudHouse movies kept the continuity stuff. Well, SpongeBob, on the other hand, they don't have continuity. It is just a mindless kids cartoon, and that is the problem here. Well, as you can see, not only SpongeBob proved that he can do anything, he just accept who he is and just embrace himself. But yet, he's over here learning the same lessons over and over again because they are not canon. The LoudHouse did well with their story and respect the continuity. Yo, you can talk bad about the LoudHouse franchise all you want, but they at least kept a balance between entertaining kids and keeping the continuity to continue the story. And this is why I expected better from the SpongeBob franchise. And not to mention, Very Odd Parents had much better continuity than SpongeBob, and I know that they do. So with that being said, the trilogy with a much better continuation is the LoudHouse movies, but the trilogy with a way more entertaining characters that I would be able to have fun with in a entertainment purpose is the SpongeBob movie trilogy. Okay, before we get to the comedy segment, I have to say something about the rumors that I heard. Like the LoudHouse final season, one of the LoudHouse creators said that he is leaving because the LoudHouse ended. But let me tell you something, guys. How did you know that the LoudHouse actually ended or not? I mean, he says that the LoudHouse ended, and he probably means that the season ended and not the whole entire show. Well, he didn't say anything about the whole series, so he's probably just talking about the season. Well, if the LoudHouse really going to end, then SpongeBob must end too. I mean, let's be for real. If Nickelodeon is going to cancel the LoudHouse, then mind that you canceled all of the Nicktoon shows, including SpongeBob. I highly doubt that Nickelodeon is going to cancel one of their biggest cartoons, because Nickelodeon been treating SpongeBob and the LoudHouse like it is their version of Marvel and DC. So yeah, I don't even believe for a second that the LoudHouse is going to be cancelled, because Nickelodeon will never get rid of their big cartoon. So I can see this show still sticking around. Well, if they were going to cancel the LoudHouse, then they must cancel SpongeBob as well, and the whole channel will go extinct, which I don't want. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say here. Well, hopefully the LoudHouse cancellation thing is not true, and the creator was just being a drunk bum by saying it just end. Because if they canceled the LoudHouse and kept SpongeBob, then that is BS. Alright, now back to the video.
The comedy in the 2004 SpongeBob, I thought it was good. It just came straight out of the cartoon, and some of the jokes are legendary.
Who blew this bubble? You all know the rules. All bubble and babies will be beaten senseless by every able-bodied patron in the bar. That's right. So who blew it? Maybe it was. Shut up.
Well, one of my friends showed me this clip recently.
All bubble blowing babies will be beaten senseless by
Okay, although the only thing that I don't like about the comedy was the nudity stuff that they show in a kids movie. I watched that movie with my friends during lunchtime in the cafeteria, and we almost lost our appetite when one of the characters went naked. The comedy in the LoudHouse movie is good, but then it just got annoying when we spend time with Lincoln being the Duke. The comedy in Sponge Out of Water was pretty clever. Well, I remembered laughing at a few jokes as a kid when I watched it in theaters. The pigeon scene in the movie really cracks me up, as you notice that Mr. Krabs just literally used him as bait. The LoudHouse movie No Time to Spy was also clever with the comedy, and I did laugh at jokes in that movie as well. Well, the comedy in Sponge on the Run, on the other hand, is not memorable. Well, especially this one scene. I did not like when SpongeBob and Patrick gets into an argument out of nowhere. That felt pretty forced, and it reminded me of this ridiculous fight scene between Eddie and Fathom from Let There Be Carnage, the movie sequel that I don't like, by the way. Well, the comedy in Naughty or Nice I thought it was fine, and like I said before, Lucy is the character that made me laugh the most in this film. Well, Search for SquarePants is not that funny either. Most of the comedy just felt so flat, and it does not work for a SpongeBob film. When I was watching this in theaters, the audience did not laugh. They were just silent in the whole entire film, and plus, there's kids in the theater, and even I don't hear a chuckle from them, and I thought that was pretty lazy when they went with the cliche comedic ending, where the characters gets left behind, like Squidward. Okay, the LoudHouse movie from 2021 did the same thing with Bobby, but at least it was a little funny, and it has good timing, but this ending, just not. Okay, well, there's some jokes that were funny in Search for SquarePants, but it felt like they didn't even tried with the comedy here. Well, the comedy in the LoudHouse in the Foster Squad is quite different from the Nickelodeon humor. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking meta joking, and I made sure this movie is self-aware with the comedy used. Okay, overall, I think the SpongeBob movies are funnier, hands down. Alright, Sheldon J. Plankton is the villain of the first SpongeBob movie. Well, I never liked him as the main villain in this movie because Plankton's motivation is always about stealing the Krabby Patty secret formula over and over and over again, and he also wants to rule the world, and that makes him pretty predictable and simple as hell. Well, yes, SpongeBob was meant to be simple, but let me ask you an honest question. When your Flayfish show kept the same old, simple trope for decades, would you get bored of it? Because I know you eventually will. But anyway, the more that I watch this movie again, I realized that Plankton was kind of smart in this movie. When he finally gets the secret formula, he just hired a bounty hunter to take care of the heroes, and he's even smart enough to pull out one more trick off his sleeve when his plans get spoiled. Like, he brings backup plan after backup plan, and for a simple villain, I am pretty impressed. The main villain of the first LoudHouse movie is none other than Morag. Well, her motivation is kind of stupid. She hates the Louds because of her ancestor hates the Louds, but they gave her time to develop her as the super villain that she is now. She manipulated Lincoln into leaving Scotland. That way she can take over, and she hold as a threat compared to Plankton from the SpongeBob movie. I mean, she tries to kill the Louds during the climax. The villain for Sponge Out of Water is the live-action pirate, Burger Beard, and I thought he was okay. As a kid, I didn't care about his motivation and didn't bother to expect better from him, but now that I am older, I did expect it a decent villain motivation, but his motivation was just simple. Well, I was impressed that he has defeated the whole entire SpongeBob crew like it was nothing, but his motivation is just always lacking, and he doesn't even give an actual reason of why he wanted this secret formula to run his restaurant. But then, I saw a deleted scene for Sponge Out of Water. He just explained his backstory, that he was bullied and humiliated as a kid,
and he just want to start his business just to be noticed. Well, after I saw this deleted scene, now I yiked Burger Beard even more, but only slightly. Well, No Time to Spy had a plot-twisting villain named Fifi. Well, from the beginning, Fifi was just a annoying vacation neighbor to the Louds, but it turns out she planned everything just for them to get to their lair, and his villainous motivation was pretty understandable too. Well, I don't think she is as good as Morag from the first LoudHouse movie, because she could've fight Myrtle hand-to-hand in the climax, and she gets less screen time. Well, as for the villains from Sponge on the Run, well, they don't really have an actual villain. Okay, well sure, you have King Poseidon, the King Neptune ripoff, as the villain, but I personally don't consider him as the villain. He was just an insecure king that wanted to be beautiful and healthy, and that's why he kidnapped Gary. So therefore, there's no villains in this SpongeBob movie, and that is disappointing. Well, although I thought Naughty or Nice had the worst villain of the LoudHouse movie trilogy. The first LoudHouse movie had an evil witch, Morag. No Time to Spy had an evil spy agent, plot-twisting character. Well, Naughty or Nice, on the other hand, they gave us evil Santa Claus, and that is such a generic choice for a villain. And of course, there's no motivation, it's just mind control stuff. Okay, the villain for the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants is the Flying Dutchman, and I thought he was pretty awesome in this movie. Well, it was a shame that the original voice actor is not voicing him, but he was manipulative to SpongeBob. He tricked him into turning into something that he is. That way he can go to Santa Monica and California as his retirement plan, which is a dumb motivation, but it worked well, and it was effective too. Okay, as for the LoudHouse and the Foster Squad, well, I made a original LoudHouse character named Logan Loud. In this movie, he is a tragic anti-hero that lost his family, and he is a rival to Lincoln. Well, spoiler alert, he redeemed himself and helped Lincoln and his family defeat the main villain, which is Chandler's grandfather. In plot twist, he doesn't want to humiliate the Loud family, he just wanted to destroy the multiverse. I also have the Giant Samurai as a secondary villain, and I just bring all of the LoudHouse past villains together into one Sinister Six team. So, which trilogy has better villains? Well, I have to go with the LoudHouse because the villainous motivation makes more sense and they're more intimidating and everything. Well, despite the deep dive on Burger Beard emotional villain motivation, it is a deleted scene after all, and we're talking about the actual film, so unfortunately, that doesn't count. And the Dirt SpongeBob movie never had a real actual villain, and that makes the LoudHouse movie trilogy villains great on paper. The first SpongeBob movie has a few cool action sequences, and the CGI were great. CGI used to be a challenge back in the day, and yet it still holds up to this year. Well, although I wish SpongeBob battled against the mind control King Neptune just like he did in the SpongeBob movie video game. That could have been cool. Well, the action in Sponge Out of Water is cool as well. The superhero action sequence was definitely underrated, and they pretty much gave Space Jam a run for their money with its CGI. Well, there's not much action in Sponge on the Run and Search for SquarePants, so there's not much to talk about. Alright, the action in the LoudHouse movies. Okay, I know y'all are going to say about the LoudHouse having action, because I've been hearing some complaints about the LoudHouse having fantasy elements, but unfortunately, I am not one of these people that has this problem. Well, before the first LoudHouse movie was coming out, well, I was hoping we can get an action sequence similar we see in the SpongeBob film, because, well, honestly, that what makes movie more fun to me is the action that I wanted to see, and on the contrary, I just got exactly what I wanted. Okay, well, yeah, sure. The LoudHouse is supposed to be a grounded slice of life show, and you're right, but at the same time, you are so wrong. Because the thing is that the LoudHouse was never been grounded. Since season 1, Lisa just literally created a trash monster back in season 1, and that is not a grounded reality thing you see in real life. And yet, you're telling me that people are surprised that they have fantasy elements in the recent season in movies? Yeah, get out of here. Well, just as you know, the action in the LoudHouse movies are great for a cartoon show that wasn't supposed to have crazy stuff. They just hold their own with their action pretty well. Well, even the action in Naughty or Nice was a lot of fun, and I don't want the action to be over because it is so outstanding. Yo, you can say what you will about the LoudHouse fantasy elements complaints because I don't care. Alright, the action in the LoudHouse and the Foster Squad, well, it was something unique to the two group of siblings. It was choreographed like an actual fight scene that I inspired from other movies. The tournament battle with all of the Nicktoons against the giant samurai armies was well executed, and I pretty much preferred the action over SpongeBob and the LoudHouse. Well, even my climax was underwhelming. The SpongeBob movies had pretty entertaining action sequence, but in my opinion, the LoudHouse action is rewatchable. Whether you like it or not, the trilogy with the far superior action, for me, is the LoudHouse movies. Alright, now let's talk about the music scores. Well, the SpongeBob movies has pretty generic scores. Well, especially the background music in the original SpongeBob movie. That is generic and forgettable in my opinion. And that's also the case for the recent SpongeBob. Well, the first LoudHouse movie's scores was also generic, but it has some pretty good Scotland theme scores they have here, but simple nonetheless. The music scores for the LoudHouse movie No Time to Spy is exciting, but also just okay on paper. Well, I don't have much to say about Naughty or Nice background music, and I'll leave it just that. Well, as for the scores for the LoudHouse and the Foster Squad, well, I did remembered putting a lot of pop songs numbered, like Michael Jackson and all that, and most of the scores are just expired from other movies, but I remix it, and there's a cinematic remake of the LoudHouse theme song as well. Well, the LoudHouse movie movies do have emotional core music to fit with the emotional scene, and so do SpongeBob, as they made impact with emotional stuff with the music scores and Sponge on the Run, which that makes it a pretty sad, slow movie that we used to get in cartoon films. Well, these scores are maybe not perfect, but sometimes the emotional music core got me so close to making me cry. Although sometimes cartoon movies can have musicals, the LoudHouse movies had several musical numbers, and some of them are good. Well, Naughty or Nice only has one. All three SpongeBob movies has one musical numbers as well. Ocean Man is the SpongeBob credit song that I used to yiked listening to, but then it just got generic when I listened to it as an adult. Let's Get Lost was kind of a better version of Ocean Man, at least in my opinion. Well, I absolutely love the LoudHouse Family song from the end credits. The credit song from Naughty or Nice is forgettable. Well, Squeeze Me is another song that I enjoyed listening to. Well, until my brother annoyed me with this song, the end credit song from Sponge on the Run. I thought it was good. Okay, I have heard people's opinion about the new SpongeBob credit song called Big Guy, sung by Ice Spice. Well, in my personal opinion, I like that song. It has a pretty catchy tune to it, and me and my friends were jamming out to this banger when the movie was coming out. Well, I am not much of a fan of Ice Spice, but I don't mind this song in the movie. I thought it's pretty great. Alright, overall, if I have to choose, the SpongeBob Trilogy has the superior scores of music. Okay, I know it sounded like that I hated SpongeBob now, but I actually don't. I just hate that it has a messy continuity compared to the LoudHouse. Like, it was a real mess ever since the SpongeBob creator died, and I wonder if the new creators actually had respect for the original creator or not. Okay, the LoudHouse has their ups and downs as well, and it is definitely not much better since the first season, and ever since the original creator, Chris Sofino, got fired for illegal insult, but they seem to hold their own with the LoudHouse movies without Chris Sofino even involved. Well, I promised to mention it at the end of the video. Lincoln, throughout the trilogy, has sacrificed himself 5 times now. In the climax against Morag, Lincoln was willing to risk himself over his family. In No Time to Spy, Lincoln chose to stay in the rocket for his family to get off safely, and that really shocked me. Well, I have Lincoln try to sacrifice himself too in the LoudHouse and the Foster Squad, where they try to stop the machine from terminating the multiverse. In the most recent LoudHouse movie, the evil Santa tries to kill Duggan, and Lincoln just got on the way and attempted to sacrifice his life by turning into a cookie. And hell, even in the live-action LoudHouse Halloween special, he tries to sacrifice himself as well in that movie. Okay, for those who are Lincoln Loud haters, just don't get it. Like, Lincoln do all this high-stake self-harming that shows that he is a good son, a good brother, and one hell of a fearless child. If me and my family were in the same situation from the LoudHouse film, I would even do the same thing what Lincoln attempted to do. Well, SpongeBob only truly had character arc in 2 SpongeBob films, films, because when you come to think about it, Sponge Out of Water is more of a plankton movie. Well, a better version of an actual plankton movie, in my opinion. And Naughty or Nice was supposed to be a Luann movie. I mean, seriously, we could have seen Luann had a character growth for the first time.
Well, you know what? Let's just get to the scores. The LoudHouse movie No Time to Spy gets a 10 out of 10. The first LoudHouse movie is an 8 out of 10. The LoudHouse in the Foster Squad gets a 9. The LoudHouse movie, Naughty or Nice, well, if it was a Luann lead solo movie, then I would give it a higher rating like the other LoudHouse films. But this opportunity did got thrown away, and as a result, I have forgotten all about Naughty or Nice, so my new score for this movie is a 5 out of 10. Alright, now for the SpongeBob trilogy, we can all agree that Sponge Out of Water is not a great movie, but the more that I rewatch it, I found myself to appreciate it, and I'm willing to take this movie over the recent SpongeBob crap that Nickelodeon been feeding us lately. So my score has now went up to an 8 out of 10. Sponge on the Run is a 6 out of 10. The 2004 SpongeBob movie gets a well-deserved 10, and finally, Search for SquarePants gets a low 7. Yup, that's right, is one of these situations where my score got a bit higher on my second watch. Well, Search for SquarePants was enjoyable, but it does not hold a candle to the 2004 SpongeBob movie. The LoudHouse movie Naughty or Nice was a fun movie, but it was nothing that deep really, and it just kind of felt like a movie that could have been an hour episode special instead. Well, compared to the live-action version of the LoudHouse Christmas movie, Naughty or Nice was pretty great, but compared to the other animated LoudHouse movies, it does not even come close to pale in comparison. Well, if you're a big LoudHouse fan, like I am, then you're going to enjoy the LoudHouse trilogy. Or, just like me, you're someone who grew up with SpongeBob, then you're going to like the SpongeBob trilogy better. But if you prefer cartoon movie with a more mature storytelling, then I would recommend watching The LoudHouse and the Foster Squad. Just trust me, this movie is worth to watch, more worth to watch than Naughty or Nice.